because I do truly believe that no matter what life throws at you, that attitude has the biggest part of it, no matter what. That's 99% of the battle right there is your attitude.
Yeah. KSG Armory makes a high quality, affordable holster, whether outside the waistband, inside the waistband, or appendix carry. We are proud to have them in the Holster Consortium. Use coupon code ASP2020 at the link in the description for 10% off. Zach, tell me, I mean, obviously I mean, gosh, 2017, so you're what, 17 years old?
Yeah.
When you were first diagnosed with osteosarcoma. How hard is it to control your attitude through that, man?
It was definitely, it was hard for me. There was times where I wanted to be alone, but I never got that alone that I wanted, but all my doctors, every single doctor I spoke to told me that having cancer is gonna make you or break you. And they said that 90% of the battle, 95% of the battle is your attitude. Because, you could either feel sorry for yourself that I had cancer and that maybe my my dream was never going to play out the way I wanted to. But the attitude just from coming to this place and from my dad and like just everybody that is involved with this culture here, it starts to it makes you think a different way than most people, because I do truly believe that no matter what life throws at you, that attitude has the biggest part of it, no matter what. That's 99% of the battle right there is your attitude. Yeah. And especially being 17-year-old, and that was easily the hardest thing I've ever had to go through.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't care if you're 17 or 47 or whatever. That's nothing's harder than what you've been through.
And growing up, I never really understood the definition of hardship or going through something, or for me, going through something was, oh, I don't really want to go to this workout this morning. It's something that was so small and that I shouldn't be really complaining about. And to come to this, I stand by this line, and I will forever stand by this line. Cancer was the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I know to some people that may sound absolutely crazy, but the first time, the second time, the third time, and then finding out 4 days ago that I have it again for the fourth time, it is easily the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Oh, you've got to unpack that. I mean, you can't just leave that there. You've got to unpack that and tell me the best thing.
I truly, firm believer that is the best thing, because I found so many things. It led me on a journey that a lot of people won't or don't ever understand. And it's because nobody ever thinks of getting cancer. Nobody ever thinks of, having anything remotely close to that. Going through a serious car wreck. Losing parents, like anything like that. Nobody ever wants that to happen or ever thinks about happening like that. But
something that happens to other people.
Exactly. Yeah. And, but I truly do think it's the best thing that's happened to me, because it took me to a place where I never thought I could go. I found my limit. I found my why. I found the reason why I don't make excuses over the smallest things. Like one thing that always gets me every time is being on a cancer floor, and especially being out of Phoenix Children's, a children's hospital, and seeing that 10-year-old with him holding his mom's hand and has no idea what's going on, or might have some clue of what's going on. But he has the biggest smile on his face, and he's not making an excuse, and that's my why, honestly.
Wow. So obviously, I wouldn't claim anywhere near where you guys have been, but I know, Abril, when I had my car wreck and I got rear-ended by a drunk in 2000 and blew out my back in a couple places and had displaced pelvis and all that stuff. Ain't like that or nothing, but when all that went down, I struggled with why me, and I struggled with pain, right? Physical pain, and that physical pain reflecting in emotional pain, and me just being pissed off and taking that out on the people around me. Did you feel the same?
No. I feel like with
Great,
that question...
Abril's a better human than me. We figured that out.
Well, like I talked to...
There had to have been moments, I'm sure. But.
There was never a why me. I I don't think I ever was why me. I definitely did say why them. Like, because in my opinion, you know, my parents got the worst end of that, you know. So it was never why me. I didn't give a crap about me. My concern was my parents, was my sisters, was my niece, my nephew. My niece was 4, and Diego, my nephew, he was like 3 maybe. And to me, I'm like, I know I can get through it. Like, that's not a problem. But like, why them? Why did you have to, you know, why does this have to happen to them? Like, they're kids, you know. And my sister, it's like, what did she do? Like, why her? Like, why my parents? Like, my mother's been such, you know, the most amazing person in my entire life, you know. And my dad, like, he worked like crazy. I mean, he was super strict, but I mean, the older I got, you know, the more we did together and all this other stuff. So it was always why them. It was never, I don't think why me ever crossed my mind. That was not something that I ever thought about. To me, it was like, oh, I can deal. It's fine. Like, I can get through this, but it was like.
Have you always been like that?
No, before the accident, I was pretty dramatic. I mean, I was 17 when the car accident happened. And prior to being the little sister, I'm the baby of the family, right? So it's like my sisters did something and I'm like, oh, well, why do I have to do that? Like, you know, all this other stuff. But when it came to my parents, I was always like that. I've always been super protective over my mom. I've always been super protective over my dad. And so that was my main focus, you know, being the baby of the family. Like, I feel like you have to be dramatic. It's in the title, you know.
You got to earn your place. You got to clear some space for yourself.
Dramatic. I think you can vouch for that, you know. It's just, my drama now is like, oh, I want a bigger car. Like, I'm gonna die in this little one that I have, you know.
So Zach, I mean, same question. I mean, obviously, you said it's the best thing that ever happened to you, which is a mind-boggling statement to make. But there had to be times where you're like, okay, this is miserable. I'm in physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain. Why me?
Yeah, especially the first time, I had a lot of those moments. You know, I fell into a hole that was really hard for me to get out of. And it was more because I really didn't understand. I really didn't know how to handle that situation. Being such like 17 years old, I didn't know how to grasp that and understand that. But for my thing was, I was scared for my first time because I didn't know the outcome, but I knew the overall outcome if we had to go down that road. If it goes all over my body, I knew that ending. But the thing that got me through that was, even though that I was so scared, I was, afraid that one day I'm in the hospital and I'm thinking to myself, what if I don't wake up the next day? What if, all these what ifs, and I didn't know the answers to, but I said to myself, these are events that I can't control. It's gonna go how it goes. And the thing that's got me through the first round for sure was, even though I was scared, I had a good poker face, what they call it. Because me being so scared, I didn't want anybody else to see how truly scared I was, because I knew if I showed my family, like, man, I'm having a rough time with this, they will too have a rough time with it. And all my friends and everyone that was there, that when I needed them at the lowest point of my life, the first time, I knew that if I didn't have that good poker face, I knew that it would affect everyone. And then from there, it kind of just molded me into who I am today.
Wow. And I mean, listen, I think that for both of you guys, it's no indicator of weakness to say, man, this is a struggle emotionally. I think it would be a mark of psychosis if you didn't struggle emotionally.
Yeah.
If you're like, easy day, this life is great, then I'd be like, wait a minute, we've disconnected from reality.
Oh, I died a little bit inside. I do every day.
This is fine, But so is it hard for you to relate to other people your age? I mean, obviously you're old souls, right? You've been through stuff that nobody should have been through. And I think your average just coming into their 20s, and people now, we've been through a pandemic that's turning into an endemic, which is making people reevaluate a lot of things. But I mean, what you've been through is so vastly different than what most people your age have been through. Does it make it hard to relate?
Yeah, it's a little difficult when, you know, your friends are going through something, and I've always been a firm believer. I'm like, do not compare trauma. Like, that was the biggest thing when I had just gotten out of the car accident. Like, my best friends that I've had since I was 5, you know, their parents were like, oh, don't talk to her about any of your problems because she's gone through a lot. Like, she doesn't, you know. And my biggest thing is, or when people go, oh, but I shouldn't complain about that because, like, you have it worse. That has always, like, made me roll my eyes. I'm like, if you stubbed your toe and that is the biggest pain you've ever been in your entire life and you feel like you're dying and that's your biggest trauma, like, I will help you through that.
Yeah.
I do not care what your biggest trauma is. I don't care if it's the size of, you know, like a pea pod or the size of Texas. Like, if you want my help, like, I will help you through that trauma. It's not about me, it's about you. So let's work through your stuff, right? And a lot of people our age like to, like, now feel like, you know, they're offending someone by not saying something or by saying something. And I'm just like, just be you. Like, that's been the most frustrating thing is everyone's like, oh, you know, you just like, I shouldn't tell you about this, or I shouldn't complain that my parent was being a jerk because they wouldn't let me out past midnight, you know, and because, you know, you don't have your parents. And I'm like, but, you know, it's okay. Like, it's not, you know, all this other stuff where they complain about little things, and I'm like,
someone else's trauma doesn't minimize yours. And it's not to be compared to.